What's up guys? Welcome to Rest of Designs and welcome to Project Joker. We're back on Project Joker, and the last two episodes, if you haven't watched them, check them out. We've made a good bit of progress in moving forward, and today, hopefully, by the end of the day, we're gonna get the engine in. Let's see if it actually clears that strut brace that's been welded in. Of course, I'm hoping it will, but before we can get the engine in, we've got to get the selector in. Now, I thought Project Joker had given me all its surprises and all its jokes. It obviously had one more left up its sleeve. I mean, this is the gift that keeps on giving. So I removed the heat shield from underneath the car to actually get the selector out, and lo and behold, I mean, this is quite common, this amount of play in these 30-year-old Mark II Golfs, but this was something special. It's supposed to have like a plastic cup here. They obviously thought that was too much work to actually go and order, you know, a €4 or €5 part to actually fit on here. Let's just make something out of a bit of steel, a bit of metal, and a few bolts, and bolt it all up, and wow, that is special. Personally, on my own project, I wouldn't go for an O2A. Yes, they're fine, but the throw was so long, and you know, the O2J that comes out of the Mark IVs and the like, selector is so superior. The actual selector here and the bit that goes in the gearbox as well, far superior to this earlier type O2A. But that's what we've got, so that's what we're going to work with, and that's what the owner wants. Yep, I've kind of mounted it up. I can see it's more or less a straight bolting almost. What I need to do is trim some of these little bits here, and then I'm going to line this up with these pins here, so that when you put the central console, it kind of still lines up with this to hold the console down. And what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to cut the bottom of this off and weld this onto there so that there's no movement, and it'll be just a bolt-on plug and play situation. All right, so I think first things first. Now that these are all lined up, that's pretty much it there. So I'm going to have to chop off this area here. Okay, so I've gutted out the old O2O selector, cut the top off with the base. So this is kind of, let me put the base back on here. So you can see the orientation. This is what I'm going by here. These lugs on here, and that lines up with that line there. So this is basically going to weld onto there. As long as that welds onto there, I can't go wrong. Now, at the base of this, it's got like this kind of shape. So I'm going to have to cut that shape out of there, so then it sits flush, and I can weld this base onto there, and it will be all hopefully lined up perfectly. So as you saw, I trimmed off the bottom, and then I have to trimmed off kind of more than I needed to, but at least I got the shape just to keep the frame out there, and it's in line where it needs to be. I've put 3 little spot welds in. Now let's go and test fit and see what it looks like. So from here it looks good. Let's have a closer look. And we'll just put the bolts on. Yeah, that looks perfect. Yeah, that's lined up really, really well. Yep, and I'm hoping now, I think the boot will go over that still. It's not too high, I'm not sure. Let's see, because this does sit a bit tall. Hopefully central console can clear it. I might need to modify the console slightly, but yep, that looks like it's a good fit. So this is the heat shield, and this looks like it's seen much, much better days. I don't know how much cleaner I can get it. I want it to look new again, but I'll at least give it a once over the jet wash, and anything's better than this, basically. So that's definitely silver. It looks a lot better. The other side looks a lot better as well. Came up quite nice actually. And that's the box there. Clean up the cables. That also came up quite nice as well. All right, so that's ready to bolt up now. That's how it looks. Sits perfectly. It's proper centered. Those 2 pin locators are there. Definitely a nice touch. Getting the rocker cover color coded, especially with the strut brace. I think to be running fairly close to it, not too close, hopefully. It will look actually like a nice touch. So what I've done is stripped the engine down, not fully, just topped and tailed it, as we call it. So what I did was remove the sump, clean out the sump, also did remove the pistons to see why it was actually smoking as bad as it was. The piston rings were literally all oiled up, they were seized, gunked up, so literally replaced the rings, cleaned the pistons down, honed the block very lightly, got the head reconditioned, basically just changed the valve seals, valve guides, reseated the valves, and obviously decarboned it all and skimmed it slightly. So it's basically had a little light freshen up. Obviously new timing belt, new water pump, new bits and pieces on it, new seals, rear main, front mains, cam seals, all that kind of stuff's being replaced. The clutch that was actually in the Passat looked like it was fairly new. It was a sash clutch as well. So that's going to get bolted back on. Just need to now center the center plate and torque up these 9mm 12-point bolts. So now it's time to marry up the gearbox to the engine. Then we move the camera over to this side so you guys can get a better view of what needs to be done to actually get the flange bit over the flywheel. Tilt it like that. Job done. Always have the bolts to hand. So come up to the starter motor and the front bracket. Now, this is where a few people kind of go wrong with these O2A and O2J conversions in the Mark II Golf. I've covered this in a few videos, but maybe it's been missed a few times. As you can see, this is from the Passat B3, and this is from the Golf Mark III and Seat Ibizas, which have kind of a different front mount. Now, as you can see, the angle is very different. And what that does is, because obviously the rear mount is further back, it lifts up the front and actually lifts up the back. So you can kind of have an odd angle and the engine looks slightly tilted as well. And that's mainly why, is because you need these B3 ones. Now in the UK, these are almost impossible to find nowadays. I do kind of stumble across these every so often. I do put them up on eBay. There's none on there at the moment, but I'm hoping to have some in a few weeks' time. So, you know, keep on looking on my eBay page and you'll see these pop up every so often with the bolts and everything. Yeah, and this is the main difference. As you can see, the angle, if you kind of tilt it, you can see like for like, it's totally different. So you get the right angle with the B3 front bracket. And now another thing a lot of people also tend to always leave out is this front bolt. That's really important, that front bolt. Without that, you can actually crack the bracket. It does need that extra support on there. Okay, let's bolt this up, torque it up. So at this point, I'm ready to get the engine and box in. Now, I do have a bit of a dilemma. Do I actually bolt on the inlet manifold? Or will it be easier to actually put in, or can I actually put it in with this strut brace in the way? This is going to be the issue, I think. I know 100% it'll fit in as it is, because it's not going to, no way is the rocker cover going to hit up here. But I don't know, with the inlet manifold, I don't want to scratch, even if I cover it. it might be easier a case of getting the engine in and then bolting on the exhaust manifold and then trying to see if I can get in, maybe removing the rocker cover again and see if I can get that in. So I think I'm going to play it, I'm going to take a gamble and actually, well, they're both gambles actually, there is no actually right way, I don't know. I think I'm just going to bolt it in now as it is like this and then see if I can actually get the manifold in instead of trying to actually squeeze it on with the inlet manifold and then struggle to bolt on the exhaust manifold. It might be a lot easier if I just engine, exhaust manifold, inlet manifold. So it was a 50-50 call and I don't think I could win either way. So I've actually got the exhaust manifold on. I had to slightly massage the actual, this top Y piece as well as the bulkhead slightly underneath so it clears a few mil, and now try and get that on there. There's no way that's gonna fit at all. I don't know what I was thinking. So what I'm gonna do is got the jack out. I'm just gonna drop the cross member, see if I can lower the engine as much as I can, take the rocker cover off and get it hopefully in between the head and the strut brace and get it in that way. So just to recap, and going over the exhaust manifold, as you can see, it's quite high up from where it should be and really close to the bulkhead. I mean really close, it's maybe about 3 or 4 mil away that I was able to actually make with the hammer, hitting slightly the exhaust manifold itself, this top Y piece, and actually then the underside of the bulkhead. Kind of leave it, hammered it away, give it a bit of clearance. Now, funny how things are. Lucas here left a comment, one of the subscribers, saying that he's got a TA manifold on his 8-valve GTI and the manifold hits the firewall. Wow. So that's what you call the power of the internet. It's definitely an issue more with, I thought, well, maybe because it's the tall block, they're 15, 16 mil taller, I was having that issue. But then, I mean, if you look at it from here, you can see how much space you got underneath and how close it is. I mean, you've got, it's not even a very big diameter pipe, so it should be loads of adequate space, top and bottom, and as you can see, it's resting right up against it now. I've tried to tilt this, doesn't really work, and I'm not gonna go and cut the manifold now and try and change the angle from here, and then I have to cut it again and then change the angle at the bottom. And then it could cause issues with the actual material that it's made out of, and it's cracking where I've welded it and cutted it. So I've managed to give it about 10 mil gap now, so I can easily get my finger in there. So that's fine. I'm happy with that. Now I've loosened off the cross member with the jack, and hopefully now I'm going to have enough clearance to get this inlet no, still not enough. Drop it a little bit more, see if it comes out a bit more. That's as far as it goes. You put the camera down, try and do it backwards. Yep, that's in. So this looks like it's going to be definitely a tight squeeze. The front cross member is nowhere near the height it needs to be at, as you can see. And yet, literally almost touching there. Okay, I can remove this, but this is going to be so close along here because it should kind of rotate back and it should actually eventually sit here. Or maybe what I can do actually is actually not remove the throttle body, loosen off the manifold again. Right, so where are we at? We are at the inlet manifold is on. That was a bit of a mission. And also reservoir's back in place. I've also put on the clutch master and the clutch slave, gear selector cables with the weight as well. Also had to modify the power steering bracket. Normally you can cut these down, but you might want to put a bigger battery. So what I've done is I've actually tilted it forward and then tilted it back again. So I've actually, in theory, just kept it at the same distance, but just kind of moved it forward and at the right angle. And also this pipe here, loosened it off and twisted it at 90 degrees so that it clears the weight. So that's kind of fourth gear, and it clears it. And then that's second gear, and it still clears it, so that's fine. And now with any project, I kind of, especially something like this, which is a full-on conversion, engine, bits and bobs, suspension, all that kind of stuff, I kind of aim for some kind of goals, targets, so to speak, which is kind of, for me, is the pedals, believe it or not. So it's like, first thing I want to do is, especially if I've done something like this, a full conversion, try and get a brake pedal, try and get a clutch pedal, accelerator pedal, gear selector. So we've got those things done today actually, apart from the accelerator. So we've got a gear stick, we've got the clutch pedal, because I've bled that up and done that, and the brake fluid, and we've got the brakes. So I've actually got a brake pedal, got a clutch pedal, and we've got a gear selector. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. So this is it for this episode, guys. In the next episode, I'm going to be dealing with this mess along here, which is wiring basically. So I'm going to run you guys through the boring thing. I'm going to removing all this old tape, fitting new, taping it all up, looking all nice, removing what's not needed as well, running it through the most aesthetically nice looking way possible. Also going to be fitting on the new CE2 headlamp loom, and for the wipers, fit that all in, as well as run the wires to the back CE2 for the fuel pump and the rear lights, as well as all the stuff behind the dash, the demister, fog lights, heater switch, and also going to change the stalks. We're going to replace this ignition switch because I can take it, that's actually damaged from the wiring I took out as well. So yeah, in the next episode's all going to be wiring. So guys, thank you for your likes, thank you for the comments. Keep watching for Mark II content as well as other VW content every so often. Be safe, guys. Thanks for watching.